Hi, Jesse.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm good.
Excellent, man.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you for your time. You tend to write a lot of what you direct, so I was curious as to how you got involved in this project since you weren't playing double duty this time.
Well, after and during the process of making My Friend Dahmer right before this, it occurred to me just that I felt comfortable and ready to, find stories that I wasn't developing from a blank page, and it allowed me as a director to go again a little bit sooner. I had just made 2 movies back to back that I directed and wrote that I also produced with my producing partner and wife, How He Fell in Love, and then My Friend Dahmer. And so we started looking for new scripts out there that could be, a new adventure. And when we immediately read the script, we saw that it was not only a fun genre film and a very specific subculture of the heavy metal scene during the Satanic Panic, but that it was a lot of fun. It was funny, and I thought creatively it was a next place for me as a filmmaker to challenge myself after sort of dabbling in sort of genre through the My Friend Dahmer story.
And what's your relationship like with Alan Trezza? Like how did you guys work together to kind of deliver what we saw on screen?
Well, I didn't know Alan before I received the script. It might have been him or one of the other producers with CineDump and thought that, because I didn't know any of those guys, should, look at it. Since that, through the process of preparing for filming and for, ever since, we've become good buddies. The original script might have had just things in it that, as a filmmaker, I didn't necessarily need to explore. It honestly might have been a little more cheeky at times, a little self-aware. There might have been a couple what I found to be extraneous fight sequences in a few areas. So I just tried to tighten that thing up as much as possible. And then also there was almost like a history lesson about the Satanic Panic that I remember that was at the top of the script. But ultimately I didn't necessarily think the movie needed either. I could just start with the 3 girls in a car on their way to a heavy metal concert. And then, as a writer, I realized, you're still always rewriting moments, either when you are prepped, the day before you might shoot a scene, on set with the actors, never holding any dialogue as too precious, and finding ways so it feels organic to the actors that you're working with. And then you're also, kind of rewriting it and refining it still when you're in the edit room. So there's constantly moments where I feel like I'm still a writer on a project, even though I didn't write the original script.
Yeah, that's perfect. And to me, the first act especially, it felt very nostalgia heavy. Was that something that was written into the script, or did that just happen organically?
Well, what do you mean by nostalgia? I mean, when I think of nostalgia, I might think of something like Dazed and Confused in regards to that the score is sitting above the movie, like it's clear on a stereo or big, and allowing us of the great songs of that era, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, what I tried to do is try to make it more like a time capsule, so that you felt like you were, even if you're watching in 2020, that you feel like you're in the car with these girls, and this is what it looked and sounded like and felt like to be in the 80s. And so that's why the music is really coming out of the car stereos and things like that. So it feels like we're in the moment present but it allows the viewer to maybe remember on their own and have some nostalgia for the 80s. And for me, it's fun to do a film where in the first act, per se, you're establishing enough character development that we can care for these crazy characters. And it's also fun to sort of create something that's like horrifying or eerie, but still in broad daylight. And I saw that as, a fun opportunity when I read the script. To have these girls in the car and then go to this heavy metal parking lot, they go to a concert before it even gets dark. There's already sort of this a building gradual discomfort that I can sort of thread through the experience.
That's exactly what I meant. And I saw an interview where you talked about the movies you pulled from when you were making Dahmer. With this one, are there any particular movies that like came to mind? I know you mentioned like The Faculty and some other random movies that I didn't even think twice about until I saw that interview, and I was like, okay, yeah, those definitely share some similar tone. So I was curious about this particular film in that case.
I could like look up my old references, but off the top of my head, I do. One of the most explicit things was when I worked with a storyboard artist in referencing the way in which Kubrick framed his main characters in Clockwork Orange was a way in which I thought would be a fun starting point and how we could frame the three girls when we get deeper into the mayhem of the story, like in the kill room.
Yeah.
But, right? And, there are so many, there's Fincher's Panic Room, there's Green Room, there's always a reference of The Shining, as that I hold as a guiding light and for any sort of genre film, because it's so rich in character development and great performances, which I think are utmost important. And then, Tarantino was a reference too, in the way in which he shot the characters driving in the car in Reservoir Dogs with Harvey Keitel. Those scenes were, a great starting off point in the way in which we look to set up the camera for when the three girls are driving in the top of the movie.
Exactly. In the beginning also, too, I noticed that there's no real title card until the ending. We immediately jump right into 88, and while I liked the immersiveness of that decision, I was curious as to what provoked you going that route.
To what, just sort of start the movie without too much of an opening title sequence?
Yeah.
I just feel like, a movie that's of a certain size, I don't personally know why you'd want to make the audience wait to get the movie started. Allow them to appreciate all the people that have worked so hard on the film after they can just first be entertained. Let's just get to that opening shot.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at it, there's like all these logos and all these production companies, and it's just like after all of those requirements, it's just like, let's just get the movie started. And that was pretty much the fundamental reason why.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, man. I hadn't seen that in like a long time, and it just went straight from a Marc Meyers film to right into 1988, and I was like, okay, we're doing this. And then next thing you know, you're in the van with him or the car with him.
Yeah, well, it's metal, baby. I mean, the movie's about metal, so fuck it, you just got to go. And there's no better way to start a metal movie than with a cute little bunny rabbit on an open road.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the gore and the effects in this film were some of the best I've seen in quite some time. Can you talk a bit about how you accomplished that sense of realism and, who you worked with and how you guys made it look so good? Some of those stabs and killings, man, I was fucking honestly blown away, like as to how good it looked.
Awesome. Well, we shot this movie in 16 days in Winnipeg, Canada. It could have been probably the wildest 16 days of my life, given we had to do this entire movie in that amount of time, given, circumstances. And so, I just had a great collaboration with my DP, Taryn Anderson. We did a lot of prep work and I had storyboards made, so we were all with our crew on the same page about what the angles were going to be for the action and fight sequences. And then we also collaborated with the Blood Brothers, which are these two guys out of Montreal in Quebec who came in, and they're just like magicians. This was small beans to the pyrotechnics and the special effects that they do on an everyday basis, but they were fully committed to giving me all the tricks of blood and the tubing and the prosthetics and the props department with the retractable knives and that with the prep work of storyboards for us all to gather around that I had made before I went up to Winnipeg. All those things together allowed everyone to be very organized. I mean, some of these fight sequences, it could take 20 seconds of screen time, but take 3 hours to film, because you've got to, if you want to, for example, have one character on top of the other one, choking them on the floor, and I want the camera below them, I can't dig a hole in the floor like Orson Welles did. I've got to lift up the actors, on apple boxes 2.5, 3 feet, so that if we're below, the floor level for that perspective. And so there's a lot of meticulous filmmaking that was going on that was a great challenge and a lot of fun for me. And that kind of, that was it. Just making sure everything clocked and moved fast and was pulpy and wild and loud and metal.
Yeah, man, it was beautiful. Johnny Knoxville was definitely, for me, an interesting choice to play the preacher, and I loved his reveal, like when he kind of showed up near the end. Can you talk a bit about how that casting choice was conceived and what it was like working with someone who generally plays more like comedy roles and kind of not something like this is normal for him?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny is a great actor. And he was an actor before he was known for Jackass. It's in his blood. And as the tide was rising around the film, and we had more and more actors attached, it led to an opportunity where he was suggested to me and the producers. And quickly, we all unanimously felt like that was a great, obvious, but also seemingly out of the box suggestion to play the pastor.
Exactly.
And he came to set as prepared and as ready to work and with as anyone. And he was so concerned about that everyone, all the other actors in some of these fight sequences were prepared and that they were comfortable with what he may have to do. And I don't think comedy and Johnny Knoxville are too far apart. I mean, he and his shows have made me laugh way more than many people. So to have him be a pastor, I didn't think was that far-fetched. I also just liked the idea in the story that, the pastor and Johnny Knoxville kind of serve as the puppet masters of this whole wild thing. And that to me felt really kind of cool.
Excellent, man. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Well, Marc, I appreciate your time here at CineDump. We let the doers know how they're doing, and you're doing just fine, sir. Thank you for your time, and stay safe out there. I really appreciate it, buddy.
You too. Stay safe inside. Have a good one. And thanks so much for letting people know about the movie.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan, man, so keep them coming. I'm excited for the All My Life. I'm excited for, what's the other one you have coming out? Human Capital. Well, man,
Human Capital's out. It came out like 2 weeks ago. So it's out with Liev and Marissa and Alex and Maya. So people can check them both out right now.
Excellent, man. I'll put a link in the interview, and I mean I guess while we're talking about it real quick, and then I'll let you go. That's a completely different type of film, and I know you filmed those two films back to back, the Human Capital and We Summon the Darkness. Was it difficult jumping from one headspace to another?
No, I think that if you do your prep work and you know what each story needs, and at the core of it, I'm still going to just try to find the best way for the actors to feel comfortable in making an authentic, honest performance, whatever the circumstances are around them, and with such talented actors that I was fortunate enough to work with, that the way in which you express the camera is linked to how best to tell the story. Human Capital is a lot about perspective, seeing these same experiences or overlapping experiences through different characters' eyes, because it comes in 3 parts for most of the film. And then this is a very, very linear story where once it, shifts into high gear, it just can't stop. And it's got to be pulpy, fun, wild, and loud. And so those were the fundamental differences that everyone understood when we were on set.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again, and I will check out Human Capital as well. But yeah, definitely, I guess on an end note here, stay safe, and I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.